Councillor Ramsey will introduce it. So I'm just calling to order. Call to order, and under declarations of conflict of interest, are there any declarations of conflict of interest? I have one under Public Works, so I'll leave the chair and the deputy will take over. And I have the agenda in front of me, approval of the agenda. Moved by Councillor McLeod, second by Councillor Yankoff. All those in favor, just raise your hands. The only councillor that's missing tonight is Councillor Tweel. And Councillor Ramsey, do you want to come up and introduce the presentation?
Thank you, Your Worship.
Come up here, please.
I thank you, Your Worship, and my fellow members of council. As chair, I won't get into it too much. I'll let Simon and Chris do it, but it was a good news story. We've been something that we've been talking about for a little while now. Since I've been on my first term as council, we threw it out there, but we went ahead with the Citizens Satisfaction Survey, and the boys will break it down for you. It's not going to be long, so I won't steal any of their thunder. Like, there's a few little things in it that were low, but overall it was an 89% of review saying that they're satisfied with how the city operates and how, well, I won't say council, but how the city operates and what their needs are as far as parks, recreation, public works, planning, the whole 9 yards. And I would also like to thank our CEO, Peter Kelly. Peter did some work on it too. He helped us with it. So Chris and Simon, it's up to you to fire it away.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, Your Worship, members of council and staff. As was just mentioned, we're presenting the results for the Charlottetown Citizen Satisfaction Survey that we conducted, and we'll get straight into it. So quickly going over the objectives of this project. We wanted to measure residents' opinions about service delivery, council direction and strategic priorities. We wanted to make sure that we could use data to guide for future actions and decisions of the city of Charlottetown. We wanted to quantify and identify preferences regarding communications, and also come up with priorities for understanding what the community would like in terms of service improvement, and as well as engage the public to inform future directions. And they wanted to do this using a scientific or evidence-based methodology. So quickly going through the methodology, we used a state-of-the-art Voxco Caddy system, computer-aided telephone interviewing, that is live interviewing using a very select group of interviewers who focus on this. We do roughly 20,000 municipal interviews per year, so they're very well versed in doing this type of work. We used a random selection or a random digit dialing methodology that had a mix of landlines and cell numbers. And we dialed from March 17th to April 14th, from 10 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. on weekdays, 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Saturdays. We did not dial on Sundays. We completed a total of 500 interviews, and the average interview length was 21 minutes. This provided a margin of error of plus or minus 4.5%, with a 19 out of 20 or 95% confidence interval. And that's the maximum margin of error, meaning the margin of error would be even less based on the results. And of course, we weighted the results to the exact proportions of the population by age, gender, and ward. So getting straight into the findings, we asked people about the quality of life and expectations for the quality of life. 89% seems to be a theme throughout, but an extremely high number. So when we asked people to rate the quality of life, 89% felt it was either good, very good, or excellent. This is a very high result relative to other municipalities across Canada. And we also asked them what their expectations are for the quality of life over the next year. And 90% or 89% felt it would either stay the same or improve, and just under half felt that it was going to improve. So again, a very positive outlook, with the majority, not the majority, sorry, but 44% expecting an improvement, and the other 45% expecting to have it at least stay the same. So great attitude. I think people are looking forward to the pandemic coming to an end, and moving on with life as it was. When we ask people about strategic priorities and how they would rank the importance of these priorities, two sort of jump more to the top, but in order, you've got managed growth and development. You'll kind of see this as a little bit of a theme throughout. Maintain the quality of indoor and outdoor municipal facilities, and then it moves down from there into the revitalization of downtown, 5-year planning, and long-term parking strategy coming in the 5th position. We also asked open-ended feedback from the public. So what further actions, could the City of Charlottetown take that would help improve the quality of life? And you can see there's a few categories that one ranked very high that are in green. Those are we've highlighted that in green because they're not always in complete control by the municipality. They can be either provincial or federal. Nonetheless, affordable housing sort of goes to the top at 21%. Bike lanes, buses, non-car transportation infrastructure, and then it sort of drops off from there with road and sidewalk improvement, parks and natural cultural amenities, leisure, sports, and things like that. Going on to the main measurements that we like to use when we do these types of studies. It's called the Key Performance Indicator, or KPI. And basically ask people to rate their overall satisfaction with the services provided by the City of Charlottetown. Again, we see a very high number at 89%. You just missed 90% by one or two percentage points, or 1 point percentage point. And the results are very, very strong, with, like I said, 89% being somewhat satisfied and very satisfied. Again, typical numbers we see when we do this work across Canada, we see anywhere from 75%, 72%. Sometimes we get into the high 70s, low 80s, but it's very difficult to get up into the 89, plus. So a very, very good result. Obviously, citizens are very happy with the way services are being delivered. It doesn't mean there's not room for improvement, but yet a good result. We asked about taxation, and this is always an interesting question, and we give people 3 options to choose. The first option would be to reduce property tax, which would result in, of course, eliminating or reducing the level of services provided. We then ask if they are willing to at least keep property tax at an increase at the rate of inflation in order to maintain the levels of service that they've become accustomed to. And then the third option would be to increase property tax in excess of the rate of inflation in order to enhance or maintain the levels of service. And again, really positive results here. We normally see more people in the category of reducing, but in your case, 87% were okay with either maintaining the property tax levels at the rate of inflation, increasing by the rate of inflation, or beyond. So people really would like to keep the service levels that they're accustomed to. Those that did say that they wanted to decrease, they couldn't really pinpoint where they wanted those decreases to take place, with 34% sort of saying they were unsure. Some said just change the taxation policies. So not a lot of direction there. I think that's just, very common that there's going to be some proportion of the population who's going to be very sensitive to property tax. But again, overall very positive in that people want to keep their service levels and understand that there's small increases that are required to do that. This is just a really quick graph to show the ratings of satisfaction for all the services that we ask the community about. And as you can see, almost every service is above 70%. There's only 4 that are below, and a good majority are above 80%. So very, very strong satisfaction levels with the services. And there's only a few that sort of, come down towards the bottom. Speeding and traffic enforcement seems to be an issue. Building inspection services, the overall planning and development services, and rezoning had lower satisfaction levels. So what do we do with that data? We do what's called derived importance, and we do an in-house statistical calculation, and the calculation takes the satisfaction ratings that are given to us for each of the services, and it does a correlation analysis back to this KPI, the overall satisfaction. And so what it helps us understand is which services have the greatest impact or are the most important when it comes to what they want from the community or their overall satisfaction. And so this little animation helps to sort of understand what's going on with that analysis. And so in this example, if you look at road maintenance and repair, you can see that as satisfaction levels increase and decrease, it has a very large impact on the overall satisfaction. And that's because it would have a high derived importance. But if you look at, again, in this example, availability of trails, as satisfaction levels increase and decrease for the availability of trails, it has a very small impact on the overall satisfaction. And that's how we help you to determine what's important to your community. And this allows us to produce what we call here our priority matrix. So these are the top priorities that if you work on these priorities, it's going to have a positive impact on the community and on the measurement of that KPI. For instance, planning services rezoning, again, that sort of moves to the top with a lots of room for improvement because they're at 51%, and it has a high derived importance or a high importance level. So it has the highest priority rank. And of course, you can go through these and they're ranked in order. There's actually 40 of them, but we just show the top 10 here. And I think as a community, the way you want to approach this is you may not be able to make changes to, the first priority, but you want to look at these sort of, at a high level, determine which ones, or plan to make some improvements to and focus on those areas. And if you make improvements in those areas, you will surely result in your community being happier. You will probably see an increase in your KPI going forward. And so it's a really great roadmap for understanding where you want to focus your efforts when it comes to service delivery. So what we did is, for each of these, we asked about those people that weren't satisfied or those people that were very dissatisfied. We asked them what the issues are. And so I've got a sample of what the feedback was for each of those priorities. So for instance, priority 1, rezoning for planning and development, some of the comments were, it's the wrong kind of development. More community consultation would be preferred. Enforcement of planning guidelines. If we look at the second priority, which is again planning and development, but just at an overall level, people want better cooperation of council and the planning department, perhaps more focus on the city's economy, and they felt that maybe some of the developments are the wrong type of development. Priority 3, planning and development, building inspection services. People felt that they like to see more inspections and perhaps more enforcement of some of those services. Better oversight of inspection services. Looking at priority 4, transit frequency for T3 transit, we can see people would like to see different timing, a reallocation of routes, and perhaps the overall frequency. So some things to think about as you move through some of these priorities. This just provides some defining elements that will help you better understand where to put your efforts. In terms of maintenance and roadway and sidewalk maintenance, some of the comments, pothole, road repair, cracks, deteriorating sidewalks, road improvements, maintenance crew practices. Again, more feedback for you to focus on. Route coverage was another thing mentioned and became priority number 6 for T3 transit. So some of the things mentioned, areas not serviced or underserviced, perhaps more concentration on high traffic times. Better information on routes was mentioned probably by one person there. Snow removal for sidewalks and walkways under maintenance. Some of the things mentioned there, clearing techniques, some property damage, clearing timing, and the other comments were not useful. They were just unsure. Public safety and speeding enforcement, we know this was a priority. People like to see more speeding enforcement, other traffic enforcement, distracted driving, perhaps more police presence, different traffic policies, people speeding just in general, and stoplight sign enforcement, perhaps more speed bumps. We go to bylaw enforcement for public safety. Again, people saying they want more bylaw officers, enforcement, residential property bylaw enforcement, noise disturbances enforcement. So overall, people are just looking for perhaps a little more enforcement of some of those things. And finally, T3 transit reliability keeping schedule. We had 2 comments for this. Someone said the schedule keeping is atrocious when you have 30 minutes to wait for a bus. So again, I think this all falls in line with some of the issues that have been mentioned for T3 transit. When we look at interactions, sorry? Oh, okay, I thought someone asked a question. When we look at interactions with city staff, again, this is just a great result. This is something we don't see a lot when we do this type of work. We don't see a lot of people that have had interactions with the city, so it's good. Your public is very used to interacting with the city, with 40% having a recent interaction. But what was more interesting was how satisfied they were with those interactions. 88% of people being satisfied with the experience that they had or the interaction with the city and municipal staff. That's great to see. That means your staff, is interacting well with the citizens, they're being helpful. And then when we ask how satisfied are you with the overall quality of city information and communication, again, we see 86%. Those numbers are always much, much lower for the work that we've done, and I've probably worked with more than 70, 80 municipalities across Canada, so a very high result when it comes to interactions with city staff. City communications, this one falls more in line with what we expect to see, but 60% of residents felt the level of communication from the city was just enough. So that's good to know. And then when we asked about the sources of information for city programs, services, and initiatives, right to the top is the Guardian, which is local. That's very, very common. Often we find municipalities expect that, more up-to-date means of communication, social media, etc., would be more popular, but people still default to things like the Guardian or the city's website or mailings to home to get information about programs and services and initiatives. And then quickly having a look at the demographics for the survey, you can see we had a 50-50 split between male and female. We looked at the number of residents in household income. There's a distribution there. It looks reasonable. And then, of course, we have the age demographics. And all this was also weighted to the statistics data for your population by age and gender and more. And that is the overview of all of the results. So I'll open it up for questions.
Thank you, Chris and Simon, for all that. And as you said, I was very impressed how you said there that the staff and everybody they're very easy to get along with. If any of the residents or anything want to talk to them, the answers are there and all that. So that means an awful lot for us as councillors. To see staff being, I guess, cordial is the word to use. We're very pleased over the satisfaction of it. I think this is the first time we had the survey done, Mr. Kelly, am I correct? In the city of Charlottetown, so that helps too. It's something for us to look forward to plan for. It's another tool in our toolbox, and I think it's great, so if we all could have time, I'd like to sort of read over through the next week or so, and like any feedback, but I'm sure Mr. Kelly would be meeting with all the managers over this, am I correct?
Yes, sure.
Your worship, no, not yet.
Sorry, yes, Counselor, if there's any questions, they're on standby to answer any questions that Council may have.
Anyone have any questions, just fire away. Seems good?
Good information to have.
It's a great news story too, so we'd like to thank you for all that too, yeah. Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you so much, and great results, congratulations. Not many municipalities achieve those kinds of levels, so way to go.
Just one question before you go.
Yeah,
How many municipalities in Atlantic Canada have you guys done this survey?
in Atlantic Canada, we've done, I think, 2 or 3 others.
Okay.
And Chris, of similar size, 40,000?
I'd have to check, but I think a little smaller.
Okay.
But it's nice to hear, though, you've had experience doing 80 municipalities against across Canada. It's nice to hear the numbers are what they are here in Charlottetown.
Yeah, I've worked across all types of municipalities, big, small, right across the country. So it's great to have that kind of expertise, and it's great when we see these kinds of results. It's exciting. It's better than giving bad news, I can tell you that.
Good news is better than bad news. Councillor Yank.
Yeah, for sure.
Chris, just for clarification, in terms of across country, I was just a little unclear with the answer. How many other municipalities within Canada around our population had you done? I know that we specifically zeroed in on Atlantic Canada, but overall in Canada, were there very many others that had a similar size?
Oh yeah. At least probably 20 to 30, I'd say we've done in that size. I'd say, from 30,000 to 80,000.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Good information.
Chris, Simon, thank you very much. Thank you very much on behalf of City Council, City staff, and the residents of Charlottetown. So, anyone
Thank you
that's
so much.
Thank you.
Thank
So anyone that's watching, we're now going to go for a recess for about 15 minutes. This has to be removed because that way, Councilor McCabe, you won't see me.
Well, that's
Let's just keep going.
So anybody on live stream, we'll be back in about 15 minutes. Okay? So if you want to get some water or something, just right out.
Thank you, gentlemen. Now we go to real work.
We're going back to work here. How you doing there, Councilor? On the call, making a few deals? Okay.
No buyers.
No buyers yet. Have to move you up a little bit. You want to move up closer so they can see you on the live stream?
Oh, is it live now?
So we're going to just start from, under the agenda, there are 2 items that were added. One from environment sustainability, that should be on your desk. A motion, resolution for micro grant, and then there's one from Parks and Recreation number 5 for the IB Story Inc. tender. So they're just, it doesn't change the agenda, it's just, these are added items that were there. Okay, and just before we start, councillors, we're doing, I think, what we do with the public consultation for time for speakers. Just up by Tracy, we have the red, green, and red, yellow, and green lights, so we can keep track of the time. And it'll be up to Tracy to yell out, "You've spoken your time."
Extra page race.
You're on that clock too, right?
Good one.
Need a bigger clock.
Yeah, I need a big clock.
All
See
right.
that, they always come out. So anyways, it's just to keep it rolling here. So I have minutes, regular meeting, April 12th, 2021. Special meetings open, April 20th and 26th, 2021. Public meeting, planning, April 27th, 2021. Motion to approve them? Moved by Councillor Ramsey, second by Councillor Bernard. All those in favor? Okay. Business arising out of the minutes.
See none?
Seeing none. Okay. First report is Councillor Michael Duffy, Chairman of the Standing Committee for Planning here. Mr. Forbes is here too.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you,
We
sir.
have 5 issues to deal with tonight. The first one is a sign review at 152 King Street. I'll let Mr. Kelly read the resolution, please.
Your Worship, moved by Councillor Duffy and second by Councillor McCabe, that the proposed renderings for the property at 152 King Street, PID 336024, as outlined in the March 16, 2021 plans as submitted by the applicant, be approved subject to the following conditions by the Design Review Board. 1. Brick must replace the stone veneer around the front entry. 2. Decks, balcony to be incorporated 4x4 wood post rather than steel. And number 3, wood on front shall be true wood, while the wood proposed in balconies can be of wood-like composite.
Question called?
Questions called?
Okay. All those in favor, please put up your hands. Okay, 9-0, and Councillor Twill is absent. Next one, sir.
Ready for the next one?
I will just shortly introduce.
Okay, sir.
This is the first planning resolution for the night, and it's simply a pool house at 88 Prince Charles Drive. It's he's short 1 foot in the backyard area that he's putting the pool house up. Not very much land, but there's approximately 4 feet of land there, and he wants to, or is required of 4 feet. He wants to reduce it to approximately 3 feet, so it's the 1 foot. But the 1 foot on the 4 feet is 25%, and that qualifies, although it's only a foot, as a major variance. And that's why it's here tonight.
Your Worship, moved by Councillor Duffy, second by Councillor McCabe, that the request for a major variance to reduce the minimum side yard setback requirements from 1.2 meters to 0.9 meters in order to permit a new accessory building on the southwest portion of the lot of 80 Prince Charles Drive, PID 732461, be approved subject to the attached conditions.
Question called?
Question call. All those in favor, please raise your hands. Raise your hand, I should say. All those against? Okay, against is Councillor Yankov and Councillor Twill is absent, so it's 8-1. Okay. Want to introduce the next one, sir?
I think this was pretty well self-explanatory, Your Worship.
Your worship, moved by Councilor Duffy, second by Councilor McCabe, that the request to reduce the required lot frontage along Young Street from 30 meters to approximately 15.69 meters and reduce the flankage yard setback along Upper Prince Street from 6 meters to 3.15 meters in order to allow for the construction of a 3-unit apartment dwelling on the property at 151 Upper Prince Street, PID 368969 be approved, and further that the request to reduce the flankage yard setback for a balcony from 4.81 meters to 2.4 meters in order to allow a balcony to be constructed along the Upper Prince Street side of the proposed building at 151 Upper Prince Street, PID 368969 be rejected.
Any comments, Councillor Duffy?
No.
Question called?
Your worship, I do have a question.
Oh, yes, sorry, go ahead, sir. Councillor Rivard.
Great, thank you, your worship. Thank you, Councillor Duffy, for your report. Just reading through it, and I know there's the one piece that was looking to reject is the balcony. And I guess when I read through it, it says, second paragraph on page C79, it says, although staff does not feel this is ideal, it is not intrusive and would not, and would note that there is no power lines along that side of Upper Prince Street. And then it says, staff do not view the balconies as a necessity. I guess my question is, I mean, outside living space is certainly nice in apartment complexes. And if the balconies are not an issue and they're not intrusive and they're not causing any safety concerns, then I guess I'm just kind of curious as to why we would recommend not to do it when the developers are, bringing a plan that, again, has an outdoor space that I think would be pretty good. So I don't know what the discussion was, but I'd love to know what the rationale behind taking the balconies out.
I would agree with you, Councillor Rivard. However, in the report, it wasn't discussed at planning board, and in the report, it is mentioned twice that rejection was the thoughts of the development officer. We didn't, Councillor Yankoff, Councillor McCabe, we didn't discuss the balcony issue.
Unfortunately, I had to leave just before.
Oh, yes, okay.
I think if it was indicated maybe that the balcony coming out would have been too close to maybe the setback, was that not correct, Alex? Like it would have been too close?
They have to go through the chair.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, through the chair?
So,
Yes.
Mr. Chair, do you want to defer to Alex?
Sure, Alex.
Alex, you want to give
Your
us?
worship, this is one of those, it's sort of a unique part of the city. There is some non-conformance up there. It's around some apartment buildings. That's why we supported the other 2 variances. In regard to the balcony itself, staff's point is that they already asked for 2 variances. It wasn't critical for the balcony, right? So if it wasn't a critical component to get their approval for the 3 units is what they really wanted. There's other ways that they can deal with that issue. They can do with Juliet balcony, so we didn't support it. But that's up to you folks as to how you want to do it.
If you want to put forward a friendly amendment.
Yeah, so I just have a follow-up question, just if you don't mind, Your worship.
Go ahead.
So
Go
thank
ahead,
you,
sir.
Councillor Duffy. And again, just can I?
Sure.
Thank you. So Alex, when it talks about, developer as a trade-off, was this a trade-off that was presented to them by planning staff to say that, we got 3 variances, if you give up on this variance, we'll give you the other 2 sort of things? I'm trying to.
Yeah, we don't, staff don't negotiate.
No, I know. I look at apartment buildings that are being built in Charlottetown, small, big, whatever. And I mean, the outdoor living space and the balconies certainly, I think, are a bonus and a nice. It's even a change of materiality. It's a change of just the, I don't know what you want to call it when it comes to architectural design, but just it looks nicer. Again, it offers outdoor space for the tenants. And I certainly would like to see the balcony. If it's not an issue from a safety concern and nothing else, I would certainly like to see the balconies added back in.
Councillor Platt.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Thank you, Councillor Duffy, for your report. And just a question on this particular one, I guess. So how close would the balcony be to the sidewalk in Prince Street? Like, is it pretty close? Like, is that the issue I'm getting? Well, somewhat of a safety concern there, would there be?
I'm not sure what the rationale was, and although it wasn't within the zoning development bylaw. I'm not sure what the development officers think.
Side or something, I can certainly see you doing the balcony, but if it's going to come out where it's going to be over top of the street almost, because there's not much room there.
8 feet, but it's supposed to hear it from the report.
And then my other concern, is this the same development that there was going to be a bed and breakfast at first?
Yes.
So yes.
Yep.
Yes, it was, wasn't it?
Yep, correct.
And so now, once they got to go ahead there and change it. So we've talked about this before, council, how we keep letting developers off the hook and making plan changes after we approve it. So that's a question I'd like to answer. Why are we entertaining this to begin with when he already put in what he wanted to do with it? Thank you.
Just before we go on, do you want to put a friendly amendment to the resolution? Councillor Burke?
Yeah, I mean, Councillor, if Councillor McLeod wants this question answered first, I can certainly wait, and then I can put a friendly amendment forward, sure.
Could we put it on the floor first so that we
I
can,
just have one question before you.
Yeah, you should.
Good.
we want some clarification before we...
Yeah.
Okay, Alex, do you want to answer that?
Yes, Your Worship, you know, any property owner, they are entitled to make an application regardless of what their previous application was. That doesn't mean you have to support it, but they can make the application. So you can't bind somebody to something forever if they want to make it. They have to adhere to the zoning bylaw as it is in place, but if they want to come forward with a new application, we have to entertain it. You don't have to say yes, but we have to entertain it.
Right. No,
Go ahead.
yeah, thank you very much, Alex, and I do understand that, but
Yeah.
just going back to past history, we seem to be always bending, right? And that bed and breakfast was also part of the whole package of the apartment building and building a nice bed and breakfast at the front, which kind of entertained the thought that it wasn't going to disturb the neighborhood. Where now you're getting into apartments, you know, bed and breakfast need to be a nice fit in that area of town where maybe apartments wouldn't be. I don't know, but you know, now all of a sudden I want to put a balcony out close to the street. So I just question sometimes where we're going when we originally approved something and with the ideology of, you know, you could even put towers into this if you wanted to. Like how we kept changing, and here we are doing it again. And we, you know, I don't seem to learn. Thank you.
I think with the change in the atmosphere in the last 14 months with, you know, a bed and breakfast, they cater to the tourism trade, and let's face it, he's got an empty lot there. There hasn't been that much trade in that bed and breakfast area in the last 14 months. Maybe he's seen the light that maybe it's more to his benefit to have a more stable, you know, 365 days a year tenant there than what he's paying.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Bernard?
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, it's a good point brought up by Councillor Byrne. I'm just wondering, because that flanket setback is 50% basically, so I'm just wondering if it doesn't interfere with anything. One, I guess, like, can we not pass the first part of this resolution and defer the second part so we make sure that we get proper information? And if there is no issues with the patios and the flanks reduction, then we can pass it at another meeting. Certainly not the first part.
Okay.
Is that possible?
Can you answer, Mr.?
Well,
answer that,
I
Mr.
think,
Forrest?
Your Worship, if, you know, if the council is comfortable with it, the balcony will be 7.8 sub, eyes aren't getting good anymore, but it's just a little short of 8 feet from the property line. So if you're comfortable with that, it is a balcony. So if you're comfortable with that, it's entirely up to yourself if you want to prove that tonight. There's not a whole lot more information that could come forward other than it is a balcony. It's protruding into the flankage yard, which is typically 19.8 feet. So it's going to come to almost 8. So, but it's just the balcony portion. It's not the main building.
Okay. It's non-intrusive to the other property line.
It's in an area of the city where there is a lot of non-conformance, where buildings are inside that 20 feet setback area anyway, so that's why we supported the original variance to allow the building to move into that flankage yard, and this is the last request to push the balcony a little bit further into the flankage yard, but as the planning report indicates, it shouldn't interfere with the infrastructure on that side of the street.
Councillor Duffy?
Yes, Your Worship. The only caution I have, and it is just a caution, is the development officer in this particular case is a seasoned, long-term, experienced developer. There must be a reason that she didn't put down in writing, because she wouldn't go out of her way, I don't think, to eliminate the balcony if there wasn't a good reason for it. But so if there's a way we could pass the resolution and minus the balcony and have Laurel advise us, I'm open for it. But I'm like I say, Laura must have had a good reason for not.
It'd be nice to know.
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
Leave the door.
Do you want to go first? Councillor Yankoff.
I'll remember. Go ahead, Councillor Yankoff.
Councillor Yankoff.
I just wanted to, just for clarification, that Young Street building was never a bed and breakfast. It was an STR.
That's right.
Yeah, so just that's different. There's a big difference between a bed and breakfast and an STR.
Correct.
Yeah, And I'm just wondering, would this encroach onto city at all, or is it still, the major variance is still enough that it would still be within, like the 8 feet is still within the property?
It would be almost a little short of 8 feet to the property line, which is where the city right away is. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor McLeod,
Just a comment.
clarification, just one
Councillor
second.
Yanko, so the apartment building is short-term rentals, but when he originally approved, get his approval, that front piece was going to be a bed and breakfast. Right? Not the building, not the apartment building, but his original idea was to have a bed and breakfast. And we've been caught in years past just to keep changing things, let the developers change. And this is a case where we're doing it again. I'm just asking the question, that's all. Thank you.
So, Councillor Verdi, you're going to respond to Councillor Duffy?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Councillor Duffy and Alex. So again, talking about the variances, I mean, it's 8 feet from the property line. There's still plenty of space. I mean, sheds can go in yards, and I think the setback's like 2 or 6 feet. So it is quite a distance. I get what the rules are and regulations, and I appreciate that. But 8 feet is still a lot of space. You know, as for staff's recommendation to the board, I don't disagree with you that they have a reason, but I don't always think it's black and white. I mean, from my time chairing planning, a lot of times the decision could be a 60-40. Could be very close. And I mean, reading through the document here, it says, you know, it talks about staff does not feel this is ideal, it is not intrusive. I think that can go either way. Staff has to make a recommendation. So I don't think it's black and white as we may think based on what I'm reading. So I still would push forward and say, you know, put a friendly amendment forward to say to approve all 3 variances on this application, because I just don't think it's going to have that big of an impact. We're talking a 3-unit building, and I mean, living space, you know, outdoors is. I think it's important. I think that's what a lot of apartment buildings are lacking.
Friendly amendment has been moved by Councillor Rivera. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Ramsey has seconded. Okay, so the resolution on the floor is to accept all 3 variants. Correct, Councillor Duffy?
Right on.
Any discussion on that? Had some discussion, but anything before we ask the question? Questions called?
Questions called.
Okay. All those in favor of the friendly amendment to include all 3, please raise your hands. Okay, so I have Councillor Duffy, yes?
Yeah.
Okay. All those against? So against is Councillor McLeod. Councillor Bernard, did you vote yea?
I'm okay.
Okay. So it goes 8-1. That's with the friendly amendment. Now we can vote on the original resolution. All those in favor of the resolution? No, just before, is that all right to ask that, Mr. Kelly?
It's on the amended resolution, Your Worship.
On the yes, on the amended resolution. All those in favor of the amended resolution that includes the 3 variants, please raise your hand. Okay. Okay. All those against? 8-1.
Your Worship.
That's right.
Moved by Councillor Duffy, second by Councillor McCabe, that the request for a site-specific exemption to permit a 6-story apartment building as it applies to 199 Grafton Street, PID 342790, by amending Appendix C, approved site-specific exemptions as per Section 3.11, site-specific exemptions of the Zoning and Development Bylaw, to exempt 199 Grafton Street, PID 342790, from certain provisions of 1, or I, Section 30.2, regulations for permitted uses in the downtown mixed-use neighborhood, DMUN zone, and II, Sections 30.3, bonus height development standards in the downtown mixed-use neighborhood DMUN zone, in order to allow for a 6-story, 84-unit apartment building with parking located within and under the building, be approved subject to A, compliance with the recommendations in the design review report as per the site plan, building elevations, design concept drawings, and building finishes and materials as presented at the public hearing of council on April 27th, 2021. B, approval of the bonus height as prescribed by Section 3.12 of the bylaw, and exempt as may be exempted, except as be exempted or varied in subparagraph D below, Sections 30.3 of the bylaw. C, a lot consolidation of all parcels identified under PID 342790, subject to a PIN final survey plan. D, the property owner entering into the development agreement with the city prescribe the detailed terms and conditions of the approval of the development. And E, the following are the variances comprised within the site-specific exemption for the property. Height variance to 6 stories if bonus height is approved under section 3.12 of the bylaw. 60.7 feet is permitted. The proposed height is 70.4 feet, therefore a 9.7 feet variance is required. Height variance to 4-story if bonus height is not approved under section 3.12 of the bylaw. 39.4 feet is permitted. The proposed height is 47.6 feet to the top of the 4th story, therefore an 8.2 variance is required. Flanking yard variance along Clark Street, 7.9 feet is required for the base building setback. The proposal is for a 2-foot setback, therefore a 5.9-foot variance is required. Step back above 4 stories on Clark Street, it requires a 9.8 feet step back from the base building, therefore combined with the required setbacks, a 15.7 feet variance is required. If bonus height is approved under section 3.12 of the bylaw, lot width for bonus height on Hillsborough Street, 98.4 feet of frontage is required. Therefore, 74.5 feet of the frontage along Hillsborough Street, therefore a 23.9 foot variance is required. Side yard setback to the building located at 142 to 146 Prince Street. A 3.9 foot setback is required to be equal to the side yard setback of the existing building at 142 to 146 Prince Street. The setback for the proposed building is 1.96 feet, therefore a 1.9 foot variance is required. An exemption from section 7.11.3 of the zoning and development bylaw for the parking structure which states, where a parking structure fronts on the street, the ground level facade shall incorporate retail, public, or other active uses, as well as provide pedestrian amenities such as an awning, canopy, or sheltered entryway, and the front facade shall be designed to conceal the parking levels and gives a visual appearance of a multi-story building articulated with bays and windows openings.
Want to give water there, Mr.
Could you repeat that?
Yeah. I was gonna
We'll go back to moved by Councillor Duffy and second by Councillor McKay. Councillor Duffy, you want to speak to it?
What more can be said? I mean, we've had a public meeting on this issue. In our package on the weekend, we had about a half an inch of material to read and absorb. So I think that should do. I'm not sure though.
Question? Question called? All those in favor, please put up your hands. Okay, 9-0.
Your worship, moved by Councillor Duffy, second by Councillor McCabe, that the proposed amendments to the zoning and development bylaw P8-ZD.2 pertaining to sections as attached be approved to proceed to public consultation. And they relate to, your worship, the zoning and development proposed amendments is section 1.4.2 zoning table, including MHR into the table. Section 3.11, amend reference to fee schedule, Appendix F rather than Appendix E. Section 4.1.2, replace gross floor area with building footprint in the accessory building table and include a subsection to prohibit basements in accessory structures. Section 4.2.2, amend the height above grade for a deck to 0.3 meters or 1 foot. Section 8.1.1, zoning table to include MHR into the table. Section 44.5.1.b, remove gravel as permitted material for stable surface. And Appendix A, definition, insert footprint, and amend a definition for multi-unit dwelling, your worship.
This is just a housekeeping function.
Want to call the question? Questions called? Yeah. All those in favor, please put up your hands. 9-0.
Your worship, whereas the bylaw to amend the City of Charlottetown zoning and development bylaw, PH-ZD.2-045, as it pertains to 7 to 9 Pownell Street, PID 1105451, as attached, was read and approved a first time on April 12th, 2021. Be resolved that the bylaw be read a second time and be approved. Moved by Councillor Duffy and second by Councillor Cade.
Shall I carry?
Be resolved, Your Worship, that the said bylaw be adopted. Moved by Councillor Duffy, second by Councillor Cade.
Shall I carry?
Your Worship, moved by Councillor Duffy, second by Councillor McCabe, that the City of Charlottetown Amendment to the Official Plan, PHOPA.1, to adopt bylaw PH-ZD.2-046, a bylaw to amend the zoning and development bylaw for a site-specific exemption to permit a 6-story apartment building as it applies to 199 Grafton Street, PID 342790, by amending Appendix C, approved site-specific exemptions as per section 3.11, site-specific exemptions of the zoning and development bylaw to exempt 109 Grafton Street, PID 342790, from certain provisions of section 30.2, regulations for permitted uses in the downtown mixed-use neighborhood zone, and section 30.3, bonus height development standards in the downtown mixed-use neighborhood zone, in order to allow a 6-story, 84-unit apartment building with parking located within and under the building. Moved by Councillor Duffy, second by Councillor McCabe. Be it resolved that the bylaw to amend the City of Charlottetown zoning and development bylaw, PH-ZD.2046, as it pertains to 199 Grafton Street, PID 342790, as attached, be read a first time and approved, and that it be read a second time at the next public meeting of council. Your Worship.
Shall I carry? Thank you, Worship. Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you, Alex.
Protected and emergency services. Councillor Rivers.
Thank you, Your Worship. Due to staff missing during our regular meeting week and then scheduling conflicts after, we did not meet this month. There is one resolution for council to consider tonight, and there's also the first reading of the amendments to the taxi bylaw, and they're included in the package. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor. Any questions?
Your Worship, moved by Councillor Barrett, second by Councillor Ramsey, that the Public Works Manager be authorized to cut grass, remove any garbage and other materials or debris, clean up and properly dispose of same at the owner's expense at the following properties located at 16 Douglas Street, PID 356584, 18 Douglas Street, PID 356576, 15 to 17 Yonge Street, PID 369116, 19 Yonge Street, PID 369124, and 21 Barrymore Court, PID 515080, in accordance with the term of the dangerous, hazardous, and unsightly bylaw of the City of Charlottetown, Your Worship.
Our questions, Colin? Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hands. Okay, 9-0.
Your Worship, moved by Councillor Byrd, second by Councillor Ramsey, City of Charlottetown Taxi Bylaw number 2021 TX01. The purpose of this bylaw is to include information relating to accessible taxis, change format to be consistent with other city bylaws, repeal and replace taxi bylaw 2018-03. Moved by Councillor Barrett, second by Councillor Ramsey. Be resolved that the City of Charlottetown taxi bylaw be read a first time.
Shall I carry?
Your worship, moved by Councillor Bard, second by Councillor Ramsey. Resolved that the bylaw be now approved as a city bylaw and that it be entitled the City of Charlottetown Taxi Bylaw and that it be read a second time at the next public meeting of council, your worship.
Shall I carry? Thank you. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Council Advisory. Councillor Yankoff.
So the Council Advisory Committee met on April the 30th, and the open draft minutes are in your package. We have 4 resolutions for your consideration. They're pretty self-explanatory. And you'll also notice in our minutes that we did have a discussion around the request for verbatim minutes, and that's just been tabled for a future meeting with council as we get more information about what best practices are other municipalities and such. So if anyone has any questions, I will do my best to answer. Thank you.
Councillor McCabe.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Councillor Yankoff, for your report. Just reading the minutes from your meeting, I was looking at section 8 where you talked in closed session, Tim, about members being reduced from 5 to 4, and you were at that point, there was going to be a legal opinion consulted. Is there any update on that at all?
Thank you. As far as I know, we have not gotten a legal opinion report, but I mean, our legal counsel's here tonight, so I'm sure we can probably get that question answered.
And we could come back with a follow-up, your worship.
Yeah, I thought, can we address that? It has to be an odd number for the committee, right? That's
better if it's an odd.
Yeah, it's better if it's an odd. I think, anyways, do you want
So
to
we'll seek the report.
do some research on that? Yeah. Sure. Is that okay, Councillor Yankoff? Councillor McCabe?
No, I was just asking
She can
if there
do
was
some-
any more,
a little bit-
yeah.
Best
We're gonna have
practices,
a-
what exists elsewhere?
For more, no, I think it was that they were looking at, reducing the number of committees we were on from 5 members of the committee to 4 or 3.
That's what was for yourself. I'm sure he's
That's
There's
it,
only,
that
nobody
took-
shows up from early mornings.
Okay.
Your
Is
worship,
that all right,
That's
Councillor McCabe?
great, thank you, yeah, just thought I'd check in.
Did you want to go to the resolution? Is that all right?
moved by Councillor Yankoff and second by Councillor Duffy, that the appointment of Jonathan Gormley of the Youth Engagement Committee, to the Youth Engagement Committee on April 7th, 2021 be rescinded, your worship.
Questions called?
Questions called? All those in favor, please raise your hand. 9-0.
Your worship, moved by Councillor Yankoff, second by Councillor Duffy, that council approve the attached amended terms of reference for the Arts Advisory Board and Youth Engagement Committee, your worship.
Any questions? Okay, question called?
Questions called, sir.
Okay. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those against? 9-0.
Your worship, moved by Councillor Yankoff, second by Councillor Duffy, that the council approve the attached terms of reference for the Council Advisory Committee.
Okay. Questions? Question called? Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. And against? 9-0. Is that it?
No, your worship, one more. Moved by Councillor Yankoff, second by Councillor Duffy, that the attached revised 2018 to 2022 standing committees terms of reference be adopted. Further, that the planning and heritage and strategic priorities and intergovernmental cooperation terms of reference are currently under review and will be brought back forward for adoption at a future meeting of council, your worship.
Question called?
Questions called?
All those in favor, please raise your hand. Against? 9-0. Okay, next report is Parks and Recreation, Councilor Bernard.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you.
The Worship Parks and Recreation Meeting Committee met May 3rd, and the Worship Committee is pleased to present 5 resolutions to Council for consideration tonight. 2 of the resolutions, Your Worship, deal directly with the replacement of Simmons Sports Center and the pool. One is for the design and consulting services, and the other is for engineering and special services. Our committee, Your Worship, is also, we're planning on having the schematic of the preliminary design of the proposed new facility and pool ready to go to the public information session that we had talked about. Their input and any comments, and we have the preliminary. So you can hear from them. That looks like it's still for July. Should be ready to go by July. The other resolution, Your Worship, is the park playground equipment for the city parks, 2021 security patrol for city parks, and the renewing of the license agreement with Cycling PEI for use of the Acadian Forest bike-friendly trails. That's the renewal of that license. So, Your Worship, it's good to see things are starting to move towards replacing Simmons Sports Center and the pool. Everybody knows that that's well behind its time to be replaced, so it's a start. Any questions? I'll do my best to answer.
Any questions on his report? Seeing none?
Your Worship, moved by Councilor Bernard, second by Deputy Mayor Cody, that the design consulting services, Phase 1 and 2 for the Simmons Sports Center arena and pool replacement be awarded to DRSA Architecture in the amount of $144,072 plus local taxes, Your Worship.
Questions? Question call. Question call. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Those against? Okay, 8-1. Councilor Duran against.
Your Worship, moved by Councilor Bernard, second by Deputy Mayor Cody, that as per the recently advertised request for proposals for park and playground equipment, the City of Charlottetown accepts the following bids for playground equipment from 1. Play Power in the amount of $20,651 plus local taxes for a medium-sized play structure for MacArthur Park. 2. Play Power in the amount of $4,429 plus local taxes for 2 8-foot 2-bay swing sets with 2 tot seats and 2 belt seats each for Llewellyn Park and Marysfield Park. 3. Play Power in the amount of $1,184 plus legal taxes for 1 6-foot bay swing set with 1 tot seat and 1 belt seat for Gamwell Park. 4. Play Power in the amount of $1,699 plus legal taxes for Teeter Totter for Rosedale Park. And 5. Play Power in the amount of $4,769 plus legal taxes for 1 6-foot standalone spiral slide for J. Frank Macaulay Park, and that the estimate addition of amount of $65,000 be approved for playground removal, installation, and contingency costs for these playground projects as noted above.
Question called? Question called. All those in favor, please raise your hand. 9-0.
Your Worship, moved by Councilor Bernard, second by Deputy Mayor Cody, that as per the recently advertised request for proposals for the 2021 Security Patrol, City Parks, and Victoria Park, the City of Charlottetown accepts the bid of $41,270 plus local taxes from the Atlantic Private Protection Services for security patrol services, and that the city retains the option to extend the contract for the 2022 and 2023 seasons at the same price if mutually agreed to.
Question called? All those in favor, please raise your hand. 9-0.
Your Worship, moved by Councilor Bernard, second by moved by Councilor Bernard, second by Councilor Yankoff, that the City of Charlottetown agrees to renew the license agreement with Cycling PEI granting permission for the use of the Acadian Forest property located at PID 192328 for bicycle-friendly trails under the terms and conditions as set out in the attached agreement.
Question called. Question called. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Against? 9-0.
Your Worship, moved by Councilor Bernard, second by Deputy Mayor Cody, that the rink and engineering Specialty Services, Phase 1 and 2 for Simmons Sports Center Arena, and pool replacement be awarded to Ivy Story Inc. in the amount of $100,000 plus applicable tax distribution.
No questions? Questions called? Questions called. All those in favor, please raise your hand. 9-0.
Moving right along, your worship.
What's that?
We're moving right along.
Well, you know, I can ask for say what it is if you want me to. You can get them phoned in. No? Okay.
Once it got raining, when we were laughing. Even Greg wasn't that long. You would win. Thanks, Frank.
Thanks, Frank.
Thanks, Frank. And there you are, sir. That's it. Yes, sir. Okay, water and sewer. Councilor Bob Duran, and Mr. McEwen's here. Oh, Mr. McEwen?
Thank you, Worship. The Water and Sewer Utility Committee met on April 28th, and the minutes from that meeting are in your package. I do have one resolution for your council's decision consideration for tonight, and if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them as best I can.
Thank you, Councilor Duran. Any questions? Okay. You want to read the first resolution?
Yes, Your Worship. Moved by Councilor Drawn, second by Councilor McCabe. Whereas the City of Charlottetown passed a policy resolution of April 10th, 2000, that the City Council confirm its policy not to entertain applications for water service to properties outside the municipal boundary of the City of Charlottetown without first receiving approval from City Council to do so. Be it resolved that the City Council approves request for service received from Hardy Strom for water and sewer services at 849 Lower Malpeck Road, PID 458745, within the community of Milton Vale Park. Be it further resolved that the costs associated with the development or any future services to be paid by the property owner services to be billed with a 25% premium as a surcharge for services provided outside the City of Charlottetown municipal boundary.
Questions called. All of those in favor, please raise your hand. It's 9-0.
Thanks for the night.
Thanks, Richard. Okay, I am going to ask the deputy to take over because I'm in conflict with one of the resolutions. So, you want to take over, sir?
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. Public Works and Urban Beautification Committee met on April the 28th. It doesn't say here, but the Civic Board of Persons with Disabilities did meet this month. We are meeting again tomorrow, and moving forward, we hope to have the minutes included in these packages. So there is a few requests coming from them that they would like to see done, and so we'll be bringing them forward to Public Works, and they will do things like that. So anyway, the minutes are there for your consideration. There's two resolutions. Any questions? I'll try to answer.
Councilor Duran.
Thank you, Councilor McLeod. I'm just wondering, you know, we had a public meeting the other day at Confederation Center, and it was brought up by a lot of my residents from Ward 6 that, you know, there's a safety concern on Towers Road. You know, I know I asked for it a few years ago, but there was such a big development on the left side that we weren't going to go with a safe walkway or sidewalks. And now we're looking at development on the right-hand side. So I'm just wondering if, you know, there's any indication that there's ever going to be a walkway or a safe place to walk down Towers Road. I know it's been asked a number of times, but I'm just wondering if your committee or, you know, your department can give us an update on when, or if there's a possibility if it's going to come.
Thank you very much, Councillor Drawn, for your question. I think right from the get-go, Councillor, we expressed that until all the work was done on the tower side especially, that we didn't want to put infrastructure in there to have it all tore up. And as we see now, there's another piece just starting. So, we do have the design done, and it would be, it would be quite a tragedy to put something down and have it all tore up again with this heavy equipment coming through. And then, of course, we're talking about the Spencer Drive, which who knows if that'll ever go. But one of the things that came out of that public meeting as well was about the active transportation corridor. So we need to review, and that's what we are doing, with both Towers Road and if there was to be a Spencer Road, which one would be best suited to have the active transportation. Yes, Towers Road still needs to have something as the volume of traffic is bad, but until that work gets done, we've set the project, it's there, the work was done, and we're just waiting for the completion of the construction to put the sidewalk or active transportation in. I could let the manager of Public Works, Scott Adams, bring some more light to that if he chooses to do so. Thank you.
Your Worship, the councillor hit a nail on the head with regards to the project. It is designed, and we're just waiting for the construction to be completed, and we're also looking at making an application to get some provincial funding as well for this project, as it is quite expensive. So, yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay. Go ahead, Councilor.
Thank you. I understand now, like we've been waiting since 2014 when this started to go. Now we're looking at, Mr. Banks has discussed a 10-year development on the right-hand side, right? So that would be like 14 years or, 16 years of waiting for a pathway. I know we don't need a huge one, but just something that would be safe to get people off the road. I mean, when you go down there, I go down there a lot myself, and it's just not safe. I know we paved the road a few years ago, and it helped a little bit, but I'm just wondering, is there any way we can, put a path down there or do something? I mean, if you're going to wait 10 more years until Mr. Banks' development is going, then it's going to be unsafe for that amount of time. Now, maybe Councilor McLeod has something to add to that.
Yeah.
I also, on the other question, you opened up Spencer Drive again. It was a great meeting. There was a lot of concern from the residents. I'm just wondering from that, I know it has to go to planning, who's going to have another meeting. I'm getting a lot of feedback. Is there any way that we can turn Spencer Drive anywhere other than going up with Ash? And I know your committee's probably, looked at that, or it's in the early stages. I'm just wondering, is there any bit of update that we can give them that, kind of make their fear level go down a little bit? So that's two questions on that.
Yeah,
Thank
sure.
you.
Thank you very much. So, Councilor John, again, thank you for your questions. So we're not waiting for Mr. Banks and his project. The sidewalk issue would be on our own side there, or on the tower side, which there is no quick fix. As you notice, if you drive down there, there would have to be storm water put in through there first before we can do anything with a multi-purpose path. So Scott Adams had alluded to the fact that it isn't a very expensive adventure, and that we are looking for funding. There's 2 or 3 projects coming up very shortly in the works that we'd like to get funding on, and matter of fact, there's a meeting coming up about that too as well. So, and as far as Spencer Drive goes, again, nothing is in concrete. That was a public meeting. I know people get frustrated and say, well, how come we're only hearing about it now? Well, that's what Public Works decided to do, was to get this out there, let people get a feel for it. We're still receiving information, matter of fact, and all parties are being included. The St. Dunstan side, they're interested now as well. So we're a far piece away from having anything done there, and we plan on keeping the public informed, and who knows, we might even have a second public meeting on this. There seems to be a hot topic. But getting back to the whole active transportation piece, it's great to say Towers Road is busy, but maybe if we had Spencer Drive, it might take away some of that traffic off Towers Road, right? So that's a whole another kettle of fish, and then by getting the feedback from the residents is very important to us. And we're going to move forward with some type of plan, and we'll bring it back to the public again, and make sure that you can rest assured your residents that nothing will be done without more consultation. Thank you very much.
I just have another question, another thing. It's not the same. I just noticed in our tenders, we were going out for a number of years. I've been asking for Centennial Drive, and I'm very thankful that we were looking at that for this year. The residents at Atlantic Baptist Home, when they're up in their wheelchairs, they're on the side of the road, and there's big ditches there. So, you know, I'm very happy about finally being able to say we're putting something in there. But, you know, my excitement came with disappointment when I noticed we were going to stop at halfway up the street. I'm just wondering, is there a reason why? Is it a cost type of question? Or, you know, I'm getting calls, you know, from that area that they're very happy, you know, it's a walkway through, and I'm just kind of dumbfounded why we would stop in the middle.
Thank you very much, Councillor Vaughan. I'll refer that over to Mr. Adams since it's part of operations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your worship, yes, it was, you know, we tried to work within the confines of our budgets, and we have heard from you and residents for years now that that was an area of concern, and it is quite a long stretch of sidewalk through there, a lot of work to be done, and so the goal would be 2-year, 2-phase program. So this year would be phase 1 up to the halfway point, and then if budgets will allow for next year, you know, if that gets approved by council, then we look to finish it up to the next intersection.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Richard. Just to circle back to Tower Road just for a second. The road is busy, and I certainly understand, Councillor McLeod, what you're talking about with regards to, you know, wrecking new infrastructure that we put in. But is there an opportunity to put in temporary lane or sidewalk or something there for the time being? Because I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second and say that if we are talking heavy construction, talking heavy development, do you think there would be an added emphasis for safety with bigger trucks on a smaller, narrow road? So I would argue the other way and say that even a temporary sidewalk in there to allow for pedestrians to be able to utilize that area and not have the fear of getting hit by the heavy equipment, which is going to be in there with the development, would actually make more sense. I get the whole idea that we don't want to spend the amount of money to do the full, you know, the full Monty when it comes to the development, but maybe a temporary path would not be the worst idea in the world.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bird, for your question. Totally makes sense, except for when it comes to what land is available to do it. I'll let Scott Adams kind of speak on that as to, you know, how much of that property we own and what can be done temporarily.
I guess, Your Worship, temporarily, again, we'd still have to do significant capital work because we are narrow with how much right-of-way is before you get to the ditch or any of the storm infrastructure. So we can't encroach any of the ditches or anything like that unless we infill it and put some storm water. So there would have to be some engineering and some fairly major construction, even to get like a gravel pathway in there. So there'd be still a lot of work to get to that point. It could be done if we wanted to look at doing half the work, where we could say we get at least the sub base, the ditch or the infilling done, and the sub base, and then in the next couple of years to look at curb and gutter and a raised pathway. Could be an option if it's something we want to explore.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Councillor McLeod. Thank you, Scott. So is that possible? Can we explore that as an option that we move forward with? I mean, it's going to have to be, the ditch is going to have to be infilled anyways at some point. Instead of doing everything at 2 or 3 years from now, can we not do that part? At least put a temporary path in. That way, like I said, it does allow for the residents to feel safe when they're walking down the road, especially with the heavy equipment that is going to be coming in this area. I'd like to see it pushed forward if possible, or take it back to committee.
Thank you very much. So I guess, Councillor Burr, we can take it back. We would have to kind of assess what kind of dollars and cents it would be, but I must remind all the council here that this funding that's, if any, is going to be available. It's Towers Road is not the only one that's looking for infrastructure work, right? We're growing leaps and bounds, and we have little say sometimes on where the money is even being spent, and we seem to be being pushed by the province and as to where they want to put the infrastructure, and not so much where we want to put the infrastructure. So that's another problem that we have going forward, and I'm trying to close that gap with the province, and we're working to try and make it fair so that we get infrastructure for everybody. So we'll go back, take it back to our committee, ask Mr. Adams to give us to get a price on temporarily doing things, and see if that'll work, and the council's happy with it, and go forward. Thank you.
Councilor Bernard, and then.
Thank you. And I just might be a bit of a clarity to it. Excuse me. When we took over ownership of Towers Road, it was pretty narrow. And when the city went to pave, The reason that, as the manager talked about, we paved as much as we paved right over the shoulders. And we did that to be able to have a walkway on both sides for pedestrians to walk on. Because we knew that there was a lot of construction still going on yet. So we knew if we put in infrastructure, it would probably get destroyed. So that's why there's no shoulders really there, because we put in the extra asphalt on both sides. And I think the intent was that once the construction was done, we could come in and still, it's to fill in the ditches now, that's the cost of money, their cost of project. So we put a pathway around from it now, all of this is have to be filled in, and then we put on top of it. And that's, I think the cost of that was close to $1 million. So I think that's why, when I hear him saying, talking about Spencer and Towers and which one you're gonna do, that's probably part of the conversation. But I can say that when we took over ownership of Towers Road, it was in very poor shape. And it was a narrow street, it was dark, we put up the street lights. We went to pave it, we paved it extra wide just for that reason. So, some clarity.
Thank you, Councilor Bernard and Bernard for your comments. And I understand it's going to be a long-term project. And, you know, of course, you're talking about ditch infill or curbs or sidewalks. It's very expensive, I know that. The concern right now is to get people off the road. Even if we could get in paved chippings or something and extend that road another foot or two just on one side to get them off the road, because you see them walking down, and if you're not paying attention, the cars are coming close. And then when the time comes in 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years that you got to take it out, then it wouldn't be so expensive. I'm just, if it's just an idea, just to get them off for safety. That's all I'm asking. Thank you.
I have no other comments on that, except unless you do, Mr.
Councilor Rivera.
Sorry, I just, thank you, Your Worship. Actually, Councilor Ron brings up a good point. So I try to remember coming up Towers today. Is there white lines on both sides?
Correct.
So is there an opportunity to repaint the line in a way that we have no line on one side and you create a walking path on the cement that may be, I don't know, 3 feet wide, 4 feet wide, as opposed to 2 small, create an actual walking lane and keep everyone on one side? Just a solution.
Thank you, Councilor Bernard. I think the best thing to do is we'll take that along back with our other suggestion here and see what we can come up with. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Ready to move on to the resolutions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Your Worship, moved by Councillor McLeod, second by Councillor Duffy, that as per the conditions of the public request for quotations for Euston Street along with Avenue intersection upgrades, the submission of Island Coastal Services in the amount of $356,000 plus all applicable taxes be accepted.
Questions called? All in favor?
Priscilla,
Oh, go ahead, Councilor.
I think we had agreed in our Public Works meeting that it would be contingent on making sure that the neighboring businesses were aware. And I know that thanks to Scott Adams, he did make those calls today. So I think that, thank you for that, so that we know that people are in support of this project. So thank you.
If I may, just a comments. Thank you very much, Councilor Yankoff. When we presented it the first time around, that was something that could come up, was that way we did it for the residents and the businesses, and so we decided this time around to make sure, and as you said in the minutes, it was mentioned that we make sure that everybody's happy here, and communication is a wonderful thing. Thank you very much.
Okay. All in favor? Okay, those opposed? Carried 8-0.
Your Worship, moved by Councillor McLeod, second by Councillor Duffy, that as per the conditions of the public request for quotations for the precast concrete box culvert, the submission of Shaw Group Limited in the amount of $248,981.60 plus applicable taxes be accepted.
Thank you. Any questions? No questions? All in favor? Those opposed? Carried 8-0. Thank you.
There it is.
Deputy. Okay, do you want to introduce your report?
Thank you. Thank you, Richard. So the Economic Development, Tourism and Event Management Committee met on April 21st and again on May 2nd. The open draft minutes are included in your package. The Arts Advisory Board met on April 27th, and the minutes of their meeting is also included in your package. We do have 2 resolutions for consideration tonight, but I thought I'd just give a little update around from the staff. Maclean's Magazine recently announced its ranking of best communities in Canada, where Charlottetown tied for the top ranking in the country. And I think it coincided nicely with the survey the feedback we received from our survey tonight, you know, that actually things must be going not too bad here in Charlottetown. Our committee has been meeting monthly with many of the city's partners as well. So this past month, we welcomed the Greater Charlottetown Area Chamber of Commerce. And I think it's important that we extend well wishes to Penny Walsh-McGuire, who's leaving her role as CAO for that, moving on to new challenges. And I think Nicole Belfleur is going to be the new acting CEO of the chamber. So we'll welcome Nicole and wish Penny all the best. The STIHL Timber Sports recently announced the awarding of the hosting rights to the 2022 Canadian Championships to Charlottetown. Our federal government announced extensive funding in the federal budget for the tourism industry, in particular events, arts and culture and sport. Charlottetown Islanders playoffs are underway for the Atlantic Division title, which due to COVID-19 restrictions are being played now in Shawinigan, Quebec. They're up 2-0 on the series over at Patty Bathurst, so go Isles go. And the next edition of the Canadian Capital Cities Organization Virtual Speaker Series will take place on June 15th, which will center on the theme of the capital city's role in reconciliation. Any councillor wishing to attend this session is encouraged to speak with our tourism officer, who will ensure that the registration information is shared when it becomes available. So we're ready to kind of move into our 2 resolutions. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions on our report? Okay. Do you wish to introduce the first resolution?
Yes, Your Worship, moved by Councilman McCabe, second by Deputy Mayor Cody, that City Council endorse the statue of Sir John A. Macdonald shall remain in place at the corner of Queen Street and Richmond Street, and further that the city make amendments to the installation as per the October 14th, 2020 recommendations of UNWA on behalf of Epic Creek Assembly of Councils and endorsed by the Native Council of Prince Edward Island as follows. 1. Add a statue to the installation, example, Indigenous Elder, dedicated to the Indigenous peoples of Canada that highlight their resiliency and contribution to Canadian society. 2. Revised installation in such a manner that removes the photo opportunity on the bench, which would involve filling or sealing off the empty space on the bench to prevent photographs. 3. Add signage or sufficiently large plaquing to the installation which detail the devastating role Sir John A. Macdonald played in the Indigenous history of Canada. 4. If the artist engaged to complete such work is not Indigenous, contract a Mi'kmaq artist to serve as consultant to provide artistic guidance. And 5, completion of this work should take place as soon as reasonably possible, with elements in place by the fall 2021 at the latest. Further, should the statue remain in place while this work occurs, a signage shall be placed in the empty space on the bench adjacent to Sir John A. Macdonald, removing the photo opportunity and advising of the public that the changes are underway.
Councillor Black.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Councillor, for your report. Just a question. So, just to clarify, are all 3 of the stakeholders involved with this?
It's my indication that staff has reached out to the 3 groups who have all stated that they're good with these recommendations proceeding as is.
Just follow up. Just wanted to be clear that you know, the damaging of this public piece of art is shouldn't be done, and I just want to make sure that we're going anywhere with this, that the three parent stakeholders are all on board, because it's a travesty to see this piece of public art, like any other piece of public art, keep getting damaged. That really bothers me more than anything. It's the fact that we're destroying public art all the time, and at the end of the day, let's be civilized and try and work this out and not have all this damage being done, because it costs the taxpayers, the city of Charlotte, a lot of money. Thank you.
Did you want to answer? Councillor Ramsey, did you want to ask a question?
Thank you for your report, Councillor McCabe. Some letters I've been getting, emails and phone calls. And I'm not against this at all, but I just wondered, is the city responsible for the total cost if we do add on an elder or a statue beside it, or are these other groups going to jump in and sort of help the city up with the cost? And then my second part of it is, every time the statue is damaged, as Councillor McLeod said, and let's say there is an elder there and that happens to get sort of damaged, does it all fall back on the taxpayers of the city, I guess? Like, if everybody wants all these things done, we all should work as a group together to pay for this thing, I guess is what I'm trying to ask. If that makes any sense to you.
Okay, well, thank you for your question. What I can tell you right now is I think we would have to explore next steps, and Laurel, I'm not correct in my response, by all means, please jump in. Right now, we're just trying to have the permission of council to proceed with the recommendations that have been forwarded, and once we have those recommendations approved, we'll be able to sort through cost, and we haven't explored any of those issues because right now we're still waiting for direction from council. Is that okay? Your
Yes, it
answer?
is.
Councillor Rivera and Councillor Duffy.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Councillor McCabe, for bringing this, and thank you to the staff. Hopefully we're bringing this to a conclusion, and a good conclusion. I think, I've heard from every possible side, I believe, in this debate, the good, bad, and the ugly from every side. And I think this is a great start to reconciliation. So I'll be voting in favor of this tonight. The one thing that I do have a question on, though, is number 3. I know some of the talk I've received from some of the residents talking about keeping Sir John A. in place, which he is remaining. But it talks about, telling the devastating role of his part with the Indigenous people, which I totally agree with. But will there also be verbiage around, his role as the first Prime Minister of Canada as well? In that, or because the way the resolution reads right now is it's very much explained on one side, and I agree, but I think that it certainly would be nice to tell the full story of Sir John A.
I think we do it.
Let's go through the chair.
Do you want to defer to her?
Absolutely.
Laurie, can you explain, please?
Yeah, Your Worship. So, Councillor Rivard, the expectation is that the plaquing that will go with the installation will tell a balanced story. So it will tell his history in the founding of the country, as well as the impact that his policies have had on Indigenous peoples even up until this time.
Perfect, thank you.
Is that all right, Councillor McCabe? Good.
Perfect.
Councillor Duffy and then Councillor Bernard.
Thank you, Your Worship. Well, I have a concern with the rescinding of the resolution on June the 25th, because on that date, as we all know in this room, 10 councillors voted. John A. MacDonald stays where he is. But by rescinding the resolution, does that wash out that, it's over here, but we don't need it over here when we get a 10-0 count almost a year ago. So I don't know why you're rescinding this resolution, other than to place this resolution in, but I think the effect or the strength of this resolution, that the John A. MacDonald statue stay in place, would be proper.
Councillor McCabe, do you want to respond?
Yes, I can. How I would respond, and Laurel, again, if I'm not correct, I'd love you to jump in. I'm with you, I understand that. I would have understood that we would be amending our original resolution tonight to include these 5 recommendations, so I'm not really sure, and maybe the deputy CAO, or the CAO can explain.
We don't have a deputy CAO.
The deputy mayor, I was thinking, I'm the chair, sorry, excuse me. For that, I'll have.
For a long time.
Mr.
I-
Kelly, just want to...
Mr. Kelly might want to be able to
The
answer.
CAO will get
Thank
some
you.
clarification.
Why?
Do you want to get some clarification, Mr. Kelly?
So just to clarify, the discussion you're having, Councillor, is tied into the second motion. Right now, in the first, it is staying as part of the motion, and it is adding to it. So it's not taking away or detracting. If it goes forward, then the intent would be then to remove the first motion and intertwine it into one motion. So you're one motion ahead. at
But
this
the
time.
problem is, as I see it, is I was one of the 10, of course, that voted for the motion on June the 25th. And if I do not vote for this motion here of this date here, May 10th, I'll go down the record books as being against John A. McDonald being on the corner.
Councillor Duffy, do you know what it's similar like? The similarity would be when we vote down a rezoning or a consolidation, then that has to follow with a resolution to reject the
Yeah.
rezoning. That's what this is.
Yeah, but you're taking away my right to vote. I voted to my conscience on June the 25th.
Right.
And now you want me to vote again tonight on this one here. And if I choose not to vote for it, it'll go into the record books here that Councillor Duffy voted against John A. McDonald being appointed to remain at the corner of Queen Street and Richmond Street.
But there are 2 points in that resolution that allude or refer to last June's resolution. Keep the statue in place and also provide a plaque that covers the full story. This adds to that resolution of last June.
But you're going to destroy last June's resolution.
Rescind it, but it's going to be modified or amended with this one.
I don't get it. I still, if I don't vote for this one tonight, I'm on the record that I was against John A. McDonald remain on the corner.
Just for clarity, Your Worship, by stating your commentary now, you're putting your voice on the record, Councillor.
Yes. Yeah, well, I'm confused.
The intent is, Your Worship, if I could?
Go ahead, sir.
Again, the intent was to, if this motion passed, and not to add further confusion, is then to retract or rescind the previous motion. So there's going to be one motion that staff will follow as per council's direction. And the intent is to bring, trying to bring, as I understand, further cooperation and collaboration.
I understand that part. I don't understand the part when a vote was taken a year ago is going to be trashed and a new resolution covering the same 50% of the resolution back on the 25th. This resolution will take its place.
Correct.
You're assuming.
Only if this does pass, then we'll deal with number 2. If this doesn't pass, obviously the other one stays on the books, Council.
Yeah, obviously, number 1, the last year's resolution stays in place. And remember, we were asked, or Councillor McCabe was asked to get the 3 groups or the 3 organizations supporting the recommendations. All 3 do support them.
But Your Worship,
And that's what we're asked.
this resolution here tonight, right, this one here,
Yes.
it can pass
Yes.
without my vote, without my yes vote, right? And that will appear in the public record as being against it, because it's not, this one back here will be rescinded. So there's no record showing that we had a vote in 25 of June by 10-0 score that John A. McDonald stay.
We'll just continue the debate.
But my vote may be negative, that's my point is.
Councillor Rivard, then I had Councillor Bernard, then Councillor...
Your Worship, just to follow up on Councillor Duffy's comments,
Yes, could you please?
it says right in the resolution though, that the City Council endorsed the statue of Sir John A. McDonald shall remain in place at the corner of Queen and Richmond Street. So that really is, well, it's comparing apples to apples with the previous resolution that we passed back in 2020. So
Yes,
Sir
that
John
we
A.
all voted
remains.
yes to.
It's just, no, we all voted for to keep Sir John A. in place.
That's yes.
This resolution is saying the same thing. He stays in place
Yeah.
with the addition of the 5 recommendations. So Sir John A. stays. So I don't think we're changing anything except that we're adding to, which I think is a huge improvement. I don't think rescinding is going to be a negative.
Yeah, yes, it is, because
We're keeping them. We're actually going to keep them on the bench.
maybe there's one other thing in this new resolution that causes me to vote negative tonight.
That's what I don't know. Okay, so again, the resolution in the past
Will
was
pass.
keep on the bench. And is there something specific, I guess, in there that you don't like or would like to be amended?
Okay, I'll just keep the debate going. Councillor
Yeah,
Bernard
sure.
and Councillor Hancock.
Thank you.
Councillor Bernard.
Thank you, Worship. I can kind of see where Mike Duffy's coming from. If there's one of these that you don't agree with and you vote no, then you kind of look like you're voting against Mr. Johnny McDonald. Having said that, Your Worship, and I know I can just take a little bit of council time, seeing that we're on clocks now. I know this is an emotional issue, Your Worship,
It is.
on both sides.
It is.
So I just wanted to read a couple of things that I found, and I have a little bit of a recommendation and an idea, see if council's okay with it. But so this is one. I'll start off with Sir John A. Some of the accomplishments that he had, some of his less desired ideas. So he reimagined British North America as Canada. He dissuaded aggressive American expansion. Macdonald and Cartier stared down opponents of Confederation in Quebec and Nova Scotia. Acquired territory that made Canada the second largest country in the world. Spearheaded the building of a railroad, Your Worship, as we know, goes from the Atlantic to the Pacific. Laid the foundation for one of the most admired countries in the world today. Launched policies that failed. This is certainly the case with the establishment of a national policy on Indigenous residential schools. Made many other mistakes respecting Indigenous people and policies Canadians today strongly disapprove. We understand the frustrations of the descendants of those affected by these mistakes, Your Worship. Sir John A. failures should, however, be weighed against the impressive record of constitution and nation building, creating the foundation for the country called Canada that we all enjoy today. So, Your Worship, I got this sent to me from a constituent, and it makes a lot of sense. History is not there for you to like or dislike. It is there for you to learn from it. And if it offends you, even better, because then you are less likely to repeat it. It is not yours to erase. It belongs to all of us.
Correct.
So what I'm wondering, Your Worship, is if it wouldn't make sense if you could have the same setup that we have now with Sir John A. There's 3 other corners there, whether you put it from the new library or Federation Center, where you would have the same setup and have an Indigenous elder and an opportunity for people to sit and take pictures also. And they would have their history of what had happened on that book. And I wonder if that doesn't make a little bit more sense than to be arguing over this this setup that we have now that's been there for years.
Right.
So anyway, I put that in there.
Okay. Councilor Yankoff, did you want to add some comments?
Thank you. So I just made some notes here. So thank you, Councilor McCabe, for your report. And so in my opinion, I look at statues and I don't see statues as history, but more the present understanding of what history is. And you know, history is alive and the study of it grows as our perceptions evolve by weighing evidence against perspectives. So I don't want to confuse history with historiography, which is the study of history writing. So for this reason, I am happy to support these 5 recommendations that were presented by the Unaway Crew on behalf of the Assembly of Councils and endorsed by the Native Council of PEI.
Councilor, did you have something to say? You're all right. Mr. Kelly, did you want to clarify anything that might be?
If there's any
Misunderstanding?
questions, we'll clarify, Worship, but other than that, it's the questions would be.
Can I ask you, Worship, if council was in favor of putting the similar setup with the Indigenous elder seated in one of those other 3, same area, in one of the other 3 blocks, in the 3 areas in the intersection?
Councilor McCabe, do you want to answer that? Or
You
want
know,
to defer?
It's all a lot, right?
I'm okay, and I have been okay all along with as much discussion as we can. I think we've asked the Economic Development Committee to come back with a report to council, which we have done. We felt at our committee level that it was a nice compromise, that it was past due. And, you know, for me personally, I just want to see some sort of moving or closure one way or the other. I certainly, you know, tried to have this discussion a couple times we were in council, and the last direction was that our committee was to come to council with recommendations, which I feel the staff did a phenomenal job of kind of trying to put it all together, because it has been a journey for the last number of months. So I'm certainly not here to tell anybody that we can't do anything, but I personally would like to see us move.
If I could, Your
Go
Worship,
ahead.
it would take care of one, a statute dedicated to the Indigenous people of Canada, highlights the resiliency and contribution to Canadian society. Add the signage or significantly large plaque into the installation which details the devastating roles that John A. MacDonald played in Indigenous history. If the artist engaged completes such work is not Indigenous, they can contact the Micmac artist to serve as a consultant to provide guidance. And the completion of the work is scheduled for the Dutch do 4 out of 5. So.
And Councillor Bernard, I appreciate that. I think what we have to kind of look at is we made a decision back in June to keep Johnny MacDonald where he was, and then we were going to consult with 3 Indigenous groups.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, we kind of made decisions without consultation, and I think that's kind of where we've gotten led astray to where we are today. To me, when we're looking at the recommendations that have come out of the Indigenous groups that we agreed that we were going to consult with, I'm having a hard time switching off what they've come back to council with, which I feel is very reasonable based on knowing John A. MacDonald's going to stay. I think based on my understanding, they'd love to see John A. MacDonald be put away and never to be stayed. So they're kind of compromising with that part and coming with some ideas of how it could work for them. Staff, I mean, you've done all the work and the consultation, if there's something you can add to that piece, but for me, I think that this is a good compromise.
Laura, you want to?
Yeah, so I would agree with the chair. I think that the 5 recommendations represent the best compromise between the groups that don't want to see any change made to that particular piece of art and the groups that just want to see it removed. The 5 recommendations are the first thing that the 3 organizations have aligned on.
Yeah.
To Councillor Bernard's suggestion, it is something that could be discussed, but we do know that recommendation number 2, which removes the photo opportunity with John A., will be a sticking point for these organizations. They have made it very clear that they do not feel that is an appropriate setting for a selfie. So that would need to be addressed even if there was a second piece of art.
Yeah, just one minute. Okay. Councillor Rivera, did you want to say something first?
Thank you. If I may, Councillor Cave, just ask Councillor Bernard a question just to clarify. So, Councillor Bernard, when you were mentioning there, talking about another statue of an Indigenous person telling their history, not located in the same area as Sir John A. Is that what you're suggesting?
In the same, whether it's where the new library is, in front of the Federation Center, like across the street, in one of those 3 other corners.
Yeah,
And just give the same opportunity.
No, I know, and I don't see an issue with doing what's recommended here. In all honesty, I mean, I think adding to the art doesn't take away from what's there. I think it only enhances it, and it does tell the full story. I think the message may be missed if you have 2 statues in 2 different locations trying to tell a story. It's like following those little mice around, you know, trying to find. It just might be hard to tell the full story if you got 2 separate locations. I think this is a great compromise. I think this blazes a trail that's different from what most municipalities do across Canada, which is taking a side, either remove it or not. I think we'll be applauded by other municipalities to say, you know, something. City of Charlottetown did something different. Thanks to staff reviewing it, but this is a way of doing both, and you know, something's all about reconciliation, and that's what our country is built on. So,
I just follow up, Your Worship.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess the only reason I bring that up, Councillor, is you know, Charlottetown and PEI is the first place Confederate. We all know they met up 2 blocks from there, and this is where the creation of Canada started. I think there's going to be lots of people still, tourists and so on, who would like to have stand on that bench, take photo, and that's the one thing that, to me, I can agree with all this. I don't think we should be taking the rights away from those that want to sit down with the first Prime Minister of Canada and the one who laid the foundation for the best country in the world. I think they should have that opportunity. That's all I'm saying. I think this could do for both sides. You could have that statue, you could have the bench, you could still, we could take photos of the Indigenous element, similar to the King's John A. And to me, it does 4 of the 5. And that's why I'm bringing it up.
Councillor McLeod.
Thank you very much, Your Worship.
Councillor
Thanks
Ring.
again, Julie. just a question on, so is moving forward, are we saying that John A. McDonald will never be a photo op again? Even if we do add the story of both.
Well, you won't have the opportunity to sit next to him because there will be an elder, an Indigenous elder, sitting next to Sir John A. in conversation.
Right, but moving forward,
Yes.
let's say Confederation Center does a historic version of something at the front of their property or up by Providence House. What are we saying about John A. McDonald moving forward? Does this have any bearing on anything else, or are we saying he's never to have his photo taken again in the Confederation cradle of Canada? Is that what we're saying here tonight? That's I guess that's what I'm trying to get in my head.
Councillor McCabe, do you want to answer, or do you want to, your
Well, in my understanding, we haven't even got to that stage, so I'll direct it to staff to see if there's a better understanding, because if there is, we haven't really discussed that part yet.
Lorelei.
There will not be an opportunity to take a photo of one without the other.
That's right.
I think is what we're trying to get at. So there's not going to be an opportunity to sit down and have a selfie or get your image taken only with Sir John A. You could stand behind the bench, you could sit in front of the bench, but you'll have a photo with both. And it was something that was made clear to us through our consultations with the Indigenous organizations, is that they don't want the story to be separated. They want you to have to learn both sides of it when you're learning one or the other, because he is very much a man with amazing credentials and terrible credentials. So it's really about balance at the end of the day. So by putting them side by side in the same piece, if you're viewing that, if you're a visitor, you're getting both sides of the story in a single installation.
I can see that. I can see that.
And it's like reconstructing history to adapt to the times.
Yeah.
Or some have said this is revisionist history. Well, you know what, we're faced with a question, and we've received 2 letters, one from Onaway and the other on January 28th, 2021 from Abequit Assembly of Nations, and their 5 recommendations are very clear. We wanted recommendations, we got recommendations. Councillor Ramsey?
Yeah, the hardest thing, I think it's great, but the hardest thing for me to wrap my head around is that it's history.
Yeah.
We're supposed to learn from the history by our mistakes and whoever made the mistakes and all that stuff. Why are we 10 people in a room that this happened 100 years ago or whatever it was, that we're still trying to fix this problem? And that's the thing that I just can't get my head wrapped around. I'm not being biased, not being prejudiced or anything, because I think they're great recommendations, but it's history. I thought we're supposed to learn by our past mistakes. That's the only thing I'm saying.
Councillor Yankoff?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a reminder that statues are not history, they're the present understanding of history. Just to clarify that.
But then the history books are not history either.
Councillor Duff?
Thank you, Worship. Worship, you remember about a year ago, you were on the radio and you asked, or you told the listening audience that at that time we were discussing the John A. McDonald statute. You told the listening audience that if you had an opinion or a thought or anything to do with John A. McDonald, please email you at City Hall here. And they did. They did in droves. We got an awful lot of email. 150. So me being the person that I am, I read every one and where did they come from, and I tallied them, and I did the gazintas, and I did everything possible. And as it turned out, 83% of the people that replied to your request said, we want John A. to stay where is, as is. 83%. So when I think of that, and I think of the fact that we are the birthplace of Confederation. John A. MacDonald is the founding Prime Minister of what we call Canada today. I'm having trouble fathoming through all this of why we cannot get the elder in and still a place for our Canadians and our international travelers to come and get their picture taken with the former a statue of the founding father, John A. MacDonald. I just don't understand. That's my problem, I think.
Councillor Duffy, that interview was only probably 6 weeks ago. And you know what? I went through all those emails too. And clearly 66 said remove, clearly. No buts, ifs. Leave it, clearly they said leave it, 19. Remove and place somewhere else, 15. More information, 8. And the remainder of those 150, there wasn't really a position I could determine whether it was to leave, remove, but those were the clear indicators that I read. Those
Was that the one a month or so ago?
Month, 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, I'm talking about the one back in June.
Last year?
Yeah, the one a month ago, it just appealed, like it gave, the impression's been out there since June that we've been waffling back and forth on John A. McDonald. And we weren't waffling, we know that better than anybody. We weren't waffling on John A. McDonald. We were concerned about these things here. This is what we sent back to the committee for a second look. But the news articles that came out, City Council still waffling over John A. McDonald. We decided on John A. McDonald staying back on June the 25th, almost a year ago. So I'm talking about back then, Your Worship, not the one. So with all this artificial hubbub going on about whether John A. McDonald's going to the closet or he's going to stay on the bench or where he's going, that brought out a smaller percentage. I'm talking about last summer. That was the one where 83%. That was just brand new back then. That's not the most recent one.
Right. So since then, we've had 3 acts of vandalism. One paint,
Yes.
one tipping it over, and then another paint. Oh, 4. So we had a pot of seafood chowder
Yes.
with empty mussel shells dumped over his head. So then that added up the cost, and as that added up the cost, more and more people came out.
Okay.
But I want to say one thing: the First Nations kept their line on the 5 recommendations. So what was suggested on October 14th, 2020 was reiterated on January 28th, 2021 by the Abbotsford Assembly of Council. They've been consistent.
Yeah.
And I've told Councillor Duffy, I've said to non-Indigenous people, these are the recommendations. This is what we should be for. And I believe, Councillor McCabe, that's what went back to the committee, and with the research from the staff, this is the resolution tonight.
Yes, and I realize that, Your Worship. Now, I'll finish with this. I realize that from the staff and the committee, and I thank the committee and that sort of thing. But what I'm talking about is the general public out there. The general public that to take their grandson down this summer or whatever summer they can get on to PEI, how things go, and have their picture taken with John A. McDonald. That's the people that responded to your radio appeal last June.
Yeah.
And that's the 83% that said, John A. McDonald as is, where is. So, yeah, sorry.
But as again, since then, we've had several
Yes.
attacks on
Yes, I
it.
understand. Thank you.
Vandalized attacks on it.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Did you?
No, I think just to sum it up, and I think Laurel said it beautifully, is, with both sides of the story being there for the opportunity and different perspectives, and we know it's a sensitive, heightened topic. I think we're in a progressive society. I think lots of different opinions, but again, I'm going back to, I think it's a wonderful compromise for where we are today. So thank you, and thank you for the great discussion.
Councillor Bernard.
Yeah, just one other question on number 3. Do you have any idea what is meant when they say sufficiently large placking?
In my understanding, based on initial discussions back when this first started, was that again, it was just enough that someone wasn't going to be able to sit beside him on the bench to have that photo opportunity. But again, I'm going to go through the chair to the staff if you could clarify that.
I think you're referring to the placking, is that correct? I anticipate that sufficiently large would be equal in size to any other placking that is currently there. So whether it's expanding the width of that,
No.
yeah.
Okay.
And it will be a combination of the academic community and the Indigenous community working on it. That's where the balance will be.
In consultation with the artist.
Question, Your Worship.
Questions, Colin?
No, I have a question.
You have a question? Go ahead.
Sorry, Mr. So the 5 recommendations. Is there any movement on any of those 5? I don't think council's been ever really, I know it came to our committee, but only 2 of the committee were there. So it kind of, I know I would like to ask the question, do we need to put a sign there, a big ugly sign saying, this is not a photo? Like, can we not just, like, if it's been there for this long now, can it not just remain until we make the additions and changes to the plan? I mean, it'd be hands down for me otherwise.
Yeah.
You know, I just want what everybody else thinks of it.
You want to address that?
Well, again, I thank you, Councilor McLeod. From my understanding, the three groups equally found the opportunity for photo opportunity offensive. Right from the onset, that was probably their biggest, the thing that all three groups agreed with right from the onset. Could it be that we don't put a signage there? I think it's just indicating that we're in process of trying to adapt what's there presently. It was something that was very important to all three groups. Democracy's here tonight, you can vote whatever way you want to go with, but I think we have to look at what the resolution has come forward and make a decision based on that.
For me,
Final question.
For me, the key word for me here is reconciliation. But all I'm seeing is 5 suggestions, and that's it. So, you know, I think there's got to be a little give and take. Thank you.
To be fair to the three Indigenous groups, I think that when they first came back, like Councillor Duffy questioned me how long this is going to take, and their perception was that we weren't moving anywhere with anything, that they were pretty stuck on, as we saw in a letter that they dated back, to say, you know what, if we can't look at these 5 things, then it was really going to be challenging. I understand, but I'm just...
Reconciliation, what's that word mean? Right? It means you give and take. It's not all my way or all your way. Right? I just kind of, that would be, I think, solving a lot of problems.
I just have a clarification question.
Clarification question? Last one.
Chair, through the chairman, I believe you said that there was opportunity for photos no problem. And now I'm hearing that a lot of photos. So that's one of the things I'm looking at. I think people should have the opportunity to photo. But even though there may be an indigenous elder setting attention to no room down to sit down, it's still not a problem taking photos.
No.
No, not at all.
So I don't know why you need a sign sitting on the bench saying no photos until it's done. I think we do that part of it.
I don't think that the signage will say no photos. I think that the idea is that the signage would draw attention to the fact that the conversation has been happening about how we reconcile that particular piece of art, and that we can simply indicate on signage that we have consulted with Indigenous organizations. We're in the process of creating an Indigenous elder to fill this space and to visit when it's been completed. It provides an opportunity for a status update on what's going on, but also to immediately take away this selfie opportunity. Again, if you still want to stand behind the bench and get your photo taken with John A., you absolutely can. It's not going to be a sign that says no photos allowed. It's just to provide some context for what's actually happening.
And this will look somewhat professional.
There's many different ways we could do it. We can get it artistically done and fill in the space with a small sign rather than just putting up a piece of coroplast. We haven't gotten that far. We're just seeing where the resolution goes.
Or we could have a plaque done by then too.
Yeah.
Councillor Durand, have you called the question?
Yeah.
Called the question, okay. Thank you.
An hour ago.
All those in favor, please put up your hand. Okay. All those against? 8-1. Councillor and Councillor Toole.
Your Worship, moved by Councilor McCabe, second by Deputy Mayor Cody, that the following resolution dated June 25, 2020 be rescinded. That City Council endorse the statute of Sir John A. remain in place, and further that the city bring the appropriate stakeholders together to determine best steps forward, so to recognize that the full story be told, in particular involve the Native Council, MCPI, and Unaway to ensure direct input to bring result.
Have you called the question, Councillor Durand?
Sure.
Okay.
Question.
Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand to rescind the motion. Okay, get them up there, please. Up. Okay, I have, okay. And those against? 8-1, Councillor Duffy opposed.
No longer the planning board.
Yeah. Who did it?
Thank you, Councillor McCabe. That's it?
That's everything.
Environment and sustainability, I think, Councillor Bernard, you have to present the report here.
Yes, sure.
The Vice Chair.
Your Worship, Environment Sustainability Committee met on April 27th with no resolutions, Your Worship, for council consideration, although there's lots of information. And I'll do my best to answer any questions. There is one, oh yes, there was one of
It's
the
on the
decks.
micro
Sorry.
grants.
There is one resolution and one
On second reading.
second reading. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, first reading, sorry.
And that resolution was on,
The micro grants.
Micro
yes,
grants.
yes, I'm sorry.
That was on your desk.
Yes.
Councillor Bernard, I would like to say one thing. Julie, who teaches, Councillor McCabe, who teaches at Colonel Gray, back in April 22nd, I believe the students, with the assistance of the teacher Jessica Shepherd, took the whole idea of sustainability to the next level by being proactive. I believe they looked at a litter campaign at their school. They looked at ways to reduce their waste in the school. And I'd like to do a shout out to the Jessica Shepherd and the students at Colonel Gray for taking that leap forward, because when you get students involved in being part of the solution by actions, it says volumes about what they're going to do for the future. So I just like to pass that on. Thank you.
Good for the students too.
Yeah.
Good job.
Do you want to go
Your
to
Worship,
resolutions?
yes, moved by Councillor McCabe, second by Councillor Bernard, that the attached 2021 Community Sustainability Micro Grant finalists as selected by the Micro Grant Selection Committee be approved. Your Worship.
Any questions?
Right here.
Councillor McLeod.
Good. Thank you, Councillor Bernard, for filling in. It's probably unfair to ask, but maybe, I think it's Ramona online.
Yes, she is online.
If I may, Councillor Bernard, may I ask a question, or you might be able to answer this. So,
Right.
just an explanation on, I think I had a request from the Farm Center wanting to know about watering, if the city could give a hand. And of course, venturing outside the city borders is not something we like to do. The Charlottetown Gardening Sharing Initiative, is that part of that Farm Center? Would you or Ramon be able to answer that question? Thank you.
Councillor Bernard.
What was the question?
So the Farm Center,
Yeah.
for example, are asking if the city would partner with them with helping to water the gardening in the back there, the community gardens. The federal
So
government.
is that the Charlottetown Garden?
I'm just wondering if that did, the federal government has allowed access to it, to the experimental farm, so they want to know, would we be willing to partner with them in some way, shape, or form? I'm just wondering, is that part of that, would the Charlottetown Garden sharing include in the farm center?
I would say yes, but if Ramon is there online, she can clarify that.
Okay, thank you.
Could you carry that, Mr. Kelly? Is she online?
Yes, Your Worship.
Mona?
Do you want to answer the question, Mona, please?
Yes, my audio is not great though. Could you repeat that? We're talking about the micro grants. It's a question regarding garden sharing.
Yes, so the Farm Center, Ramona, has asked if there was some partner that we could do with them on watering the gardens there at the Farm Center. So the question would be, would the Farm Center be included in the Charlottetown Gardening Sharing Initiative?
I did get a request. Are we talking about the request from Sharon Larder regarding
Yes, it is.
watering a flower bed on Mount
Yes.
Edward Road?
Yes.
Okay, I did receive a request about that. I didn't really have a great answer for Sharon because she had already contacted Public Works and Parks and Recreation about acquiring watering support for the flower bed on Mount Edward Road. One thing we had thought about is maybe doing a rain barrel install there, but as we don't have any surface to collect water from, and there's no water service there, We didn't kind of have a solution to that issue. It is on the other side of where the actual farm, the legacy garden is located, so it's not gonna, you're still gonna need a mobile watering unit to get out to that site.
Go ahead, Mr. Richard, second question.
Thanks, Ramona. Yeah, we'll have to work with Sharon on that. So would this qualify if they put something together for a micro grant in future years?
Yes, and I did mention that to Sharon also, that we do our micro grant program, and if there's something that would fit within that program, that we would certainly consider it.
Thank you very much.
Is that all right?
Thank you.
Okay,
Go
question
ahead.
called?
No, he's got a question himself. Just, you guys are going fast track tonight.
I didn't realize you were talking the one off Madison Road. I thought you were talking the garden.
No.
So, how did the water in the last couple of years? Just out of curiosity.
Perhaps Ramona could answer that more than I would. I'm not 100% sure. I think it's probably based on volunteers and they're just hoping that maybe there's some way that, because they don't have the services, like Ramona said, that it's far out, right? It's not
This is when you turn off Madison Road just into the ground from the crown.
Yeah.
That's right, the Crown Guard.
Ramona, do you know how they've been watering it the last couple of years?
I don't, Councilor Bernard. Like, they have my understanding is a flower bed. It may have been part of a previous watering agreement with our other departments, but I didn't look into the background on that one.
I think Councillor Duffy has some.
Yeah.
Councillor Duffy, I think, is former chair of Public Works and Beautification.
They were using the watering truck, the fire engine type truck they have, Parks and Rec, whatever it was. Whoever runs that truck, that water, has a great capacity for water. But when I went to Public Works and I started checking it out, I was told that no, that truck wasn't available for them anymore. So they didn't have a garden last year.
Oh.
At all.
No, they did have a garden, but they took care of it on their own.
$1,000 grant to buy the flowers.
I don't think they took advantage of the grant. The grant was there, yes.
Yeah.
And I know the person that was the convener, the boss.
Okay.
And I don't think, Councilor Bernard, but I could be wrong, I don't think they utilized the money at all for the planning. Maybe they were talking at one time about having a little school for elementary school kids, teaching them about gardening and that sort of thing. I don't know if it ever came to fruition or not.
Okay.
We'll look into
Question?
question called.
Okay. All those in favor of the resolution, please raise your hand. Those against? 9-0. Got another one there, Mr.?
Mr. Bishop? The Tree Protection Amendment Bylaw 2019-TP-01C to amend the City of Charlottetown Tree Protection Bylaw to adjust fees and compensations for removals and small trees, and to add an option for compensation tree planting instead of fee payment. Moved by Councilor Cabe, seconded by Councilor Bernard. Be resolved that the bylaw to amend the City of Charlottetown Tree Protection Bylaw be read for first time, Your Worship.
Shall it carry?
Pass.
Resolved that the bylaw be now approved as a City of Charlottetown bylaw, and that be entitled the City of Charlottetown Tree Protection Bylaw, and that be read the second time at the next public meeting of council, Your Worship.
Shall it carry?
Pass.
That's yours. Can't take that one. Okay, sir. Thank you. That's it, sir. Thank you, Councillor Bernard.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay, the next report is, I think it's Councilor Ramsey.
Thank you, Your Worship. Strategic Priorities in Intergovernmental Affairs Corporation met, where am I at here, April 29th. Minutes are in your package, and the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee did not meet since, well, last council. But the Youth Engagement Group met, and I sat in on that. That was, I believe, last week or 2 weeks ago. And April 22nd, and it was just an introduction type deal, and we know the terms of reference. And they seem like a great group. Doug's going to be sitting in on the meetings. They're going to be giving us highlights, what they meet on, but they're going to give us a report biannually. Like I said, every month or something, but there's going to be reports in there every month, so we're going to look at that. But they seem like a great group. They want to get engaged and all that, so we're going to go with it. And I have no resolutions, and once again, I'd like to personally thank you, Your Worship, Mr. Kelly, and my fellow councillors, like for allowing for the presentation earlier tonight. To start the meeting, I thought it was a very good news story, and it's positive for the city, and we're going to take steps to work on it from here on.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, to move on. We have finance and audit.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Cody.
Our committee met, there's a report in your package. Based on tonight's meeting, the committee continues to be busy with all the tenders that have been awarded here now that the budget's been passed. There are no resolutions under our committee, but if there's any questions, I will do my best to answer them.
Councillor Bernard.
Thank you, Bruce. Councillor Cody, I'm just wondering if you can give me any kind of an update. You had the property where we had skunk and raccoon control tender closed, and it was reviewed by our staff. It was sent to finance. Finance sent it back to Environment and Sustainability. Environment and Sustainability reviewed it, sent it back to finance. Now we have, in my understanding, we don't have a contractor doing skunk and raccoon control. And from what I'm hearing from Public Works, they're phoning all the time looking for traps, whether it's for skunk or for raccoon, and it's kind of like a standstill. Basically, it's because City Council's not moving on this contract. You know, because it's been to our committee twice, it's been to finance twice. I'm just wondering where that is.
I'll let him answer first. If you have add something to it? Yeah, after.
Yeah, you go ahead.
Well, I think it came to finance once, sent it back to Environment, and Environment sent it to Public Works.
I don't know why we sent it to Public Works. It's under Environment.
Well,
It's back to finance.
I don't know, I'm just answering the question.
Yeah.
If you asked it.
Just let him finish, please. Yeah.
So our committee said, reach out to the current contractor who wants to extend the month. If he doesn't, then we'll go with that service.
Okay, Councillor, do you want to address that, sir?
Yeah, sure. So under the council advisory request.
Terms of reference.
Terms of references, it was suggested by the Environment and Sustainability that because the pest control was under Public Works, that the raccoon and skunk should be probably under Public Works as well. So the terms of reference was changed, and it is now falls under Public Works. Okay. So moving forward, I'll have to bring your question up though as to the resources to do this. If we're not doing it, if there isn't a tender, I don't think there's nothing been tendered. So I'll have to find out for you.
Just waiting for a decision.
And for traps and that type of thing. Yeah.
Councillor Bernard.
Yeah, I'm just a little confused because, and I realized that was under the terms of reference. This goes back
A few months.
ago?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And my understanding is right now, and you're right, they did reach out to the contractor. He did do it for, I think, a couple of months.
Yeah.
My understanding is he's not going to do it any longer. And I'm wondering, because I know it came to Environment Sustainability twice, and I'm pretty sure, Ramona, you can answer this if you're still online.
Ramona, you still online?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
Can you repeat the question now?
So the skunk and raccoon control contract, tender, it came back to Environment and Sustainability a second time. Did we send it back to Finance?
Yes, we did.
A second time.
Yeah.
So did we get an answer from them?
I've been advised that it's been deferred to the meeting, the special committee of council meeting on May 31st. and I advised the contractor, the current contractor, of that.
So I'm just wondering where we are. It's been 3 months now. Is the current contractor continuing to do the contract for the month of May or no?
No, we did offer them another contract extension, but he declined.
So we have no one doing skunk and raccoon patrol for the month of May.
Correct.
So can we move this up?
You do not, no.
Do you want to put the resolution on the floor now?
Well, we've reviewed it twice.
Yeah.
In environmental sustainability. We've got a legal opinion. It went to finance twice. I don't know why it's deferred again.
No, look, I agree
I
with
pass
you.
it down.
Like, it's, yeah, and I know Councillor Rivard wants to speak to it. Councillor Rivard.
Yeah, the finance committee deferred it for a week, and we were supposed to have a talk about the whole tendering process. And we didn't have that meeting last time, and we just said that, the finance committee said that we're going to defer it till the last meeting in May, the closed session.
The regular monthly meeting in May.
And stuff, and then bring something forward next month. And that was discussion. And,
At finance.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think it's a little bit premature because we haven't had that conversation yet. It'd be nice to have that tendering conversation on how the city does issue its tenders and everything else. And I certainly like to speak to it at the time. I'm not prepared tonight to speak to it, but I certainly like to speak to it during that time. And because there certainly is a public perception out there that the tendering process is flawed, and I tend to agree. So I'd certainly like to talk about it prior to awarding this one to anybody. That's where I sit, so.
So just to clarify, Councillor Rivard, finance said we defer it to the second regular monthly meeting of council, which is the last Monday of the month, correct?
To discuss it.
Correct.
That was because we never had that discussion.
And that was agreed to by the committee, finance standing committee, correct?
Yes.
So
That's all.
follow up then?
Correct.
So
Go ahead.
Is this for this contract or is it for all contracts? Because we just passed a bunch of them tonight.
Yeah.
And I never heard any complaints of it.
Tendering process in general, but this is one that is a sticking point.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go the month without anybody collecting traps for the skunks or raccoons.
That's
Probably
right.
the busiest month of the year.
If he didn't agree to do it, correct?
What's that?
No, I didn't.
Ramona said he didn't agree to do it.
Well, Your Worship, again, if I can speak to this, I guess it shouldn't be a problem because we were going to give the contract to a company that has one employee in the island. So if it's that busy, I'm guessing that the company that we're planning on giving to can't handle it because 3 of the employees are off island. So to me, if it's that busy or not busy, and we can give it to a company that has one employee in the island, then I'm guessing Public Works should be able to handle it with the staff that we have.
Yeah, just Councillor McLeod.
So, the best thing for me to do at this point is to take it back to my committee, make a recommendation.
Correct.
Go to finance and try to get it back here as fast as possible.
Correct.
And how's that sounding, Bill? Is that good? Because we just got it, but I think.
Because it's now under your terms of
It's
reference.
now under our terms of reference, so
Just-
let us, I'll get to Scott and we'll
Your Worship.
get something moved forward right away.
Councillor Duran.
Thank you, Worship. We're passing contracts every day. We've put this out for the last 3 or 4 months. Now it goes back to finance 2 or 3 times, changing references. Is it fair that we put the contract out, it was awarded, now we're messing this one up and not all the other ones we gave out? That's kind of sketchy work on our behalf. We should be just doing what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Contract comes out, award it, and move on. Sometimes we do make mistakes. You accept that and move on, just like every other mistake we made in paving or anything else.
But with the standing committee for finance and properties, they deferred it to a meeting of the committee of the whole, or a special meeting of council, correct? So we have to follow that process. We can't just take it off the tracks and say, okay, we're gonna do this. I think we have to respect the process that has taken place, which is finance and properties have recommended to send it to the special meeting of council. Correct there, Deputy? Yes. Okay. Okay.
So then it just sits there.
No, well,
In the meantime, I'll put a push to see what we can do.
yeah, and they'll have something to bring up. And if we have to, we'll have a special meeting before the regular monthly meeting.
But Your Worship, just a short thing is here. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm just watching the light here. She's got a green, I wanna make sure you get green. That's.
I just want to
stand up.
I think I read in the minutes here of environment and sustainability. I heard in the minutes, I think, that there was a suggestion that we move this skunk and raccoon from sustainability to Public Works.
Yes.
But it hasn't been done yet.
That's right.
But it has to go to Council Advisory Committee. They're the ones that redirect things. We can't shove them over here. and shove them over there.
Councillor Duffy, it's in the terms of reference is what we passed tonight.
Oh,
It
there
was
we go.
changed. Well, I know that much.
So pulling teeth around here, you should have told me that right off the
Well, I
bat.
didn't know it, I was looking at the green light.
We're looking at too many lights.
Green light.
Still not sure, Your Worship, why it matters what committee it's with. There's a tender document without. It was filled, it was rated, it was recommended. Finance came back, asked to relook at it, relooked at it, went through the lawyers made a comment, back to finance, and now we're gonna go and wait another month. And so I don't know, it doesn't really matter what committees it's with. We wanna get the service going.
But Councillor Bernard, I don't
Well,
disagree
I know
with
it's
you.
been tendering, and I
Yeah,
know
it's
tendering-
been bounced out, look,
Yeah.
and it started a few months ago, correct, Councillor Rivera, at Environment Sustainability, and it's been bouncing off every wall in this room. I think that Councillor McLeod is gonna do something with it, correct?
Yeah.
Well, they really can't, because it's with tendering.
I'm with you.
You gotta make a decision, right?
No, they want to send it back to the special meeting of council, but in the meantime, this councillor right here, Councillor McLeod, is gonna convene the Public Works and Beautification Standing Committee and come back to council with a report.
And Your Worship, I'm his go-to man.
You're still So it's look,
But keep it in mind, Your Worship,
Councillor Bernard, I fully, look, I've listened to the comments, and it was at finance, now we've had to change the terms of reference to get something done, and I think Councillor McLeod's gonna do
Your
something.
Worship, I don't want to lose sight of the fact that it still goes back to finance.
It does.
Yeah.
So again, it was, but I'm saying it was deferred till the end of the month to talk about the closed session, so we can talk about rushing and everything else, but at the end of the day, is that finance.
Oh, yeah.
It should go, so it's.
And finance can have a special meeting too.
Just leave it as is.
I'd like to, but remember, procedural bylaw has 2 regular monthly meetings now.
Everybody can agree. It's something that I think needs to be done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you know what?
They have their own-
He'll go through his committee first and bounce straight over to finance, correct? Is that all right? We'll do it within the next, can you do it within the next week?
Well, I'm gonna start tomorrow morning.
You're a good man.
There you go.
You get a green light. Okay, thank you for that discussion. Human Resources, Councillor Yankoff. Did you call Mr. Kelly back in? I guess he was in conflict. Go ahead then.
So the Human Resource Communication and Administrative Committee met on April the 6th, and we have this evening one resolution for your consideration, which is for the Service Recognition Program Policy.
Thank you.
And also, second reading of the remuneration bylaw amendment, and second reading for the records retention and disposal schedule for our bylaw amendment. If the minutes are here, if anyone else has any other questions, I will do my best to answer. Thank you.
Any questions?
Your Worship, moved by Councillor Yankoff, second by Deputy Mayor Cody, that the City of Charlottetown accept the amendments to the Service Recognition Program policy as per the attached documents effective May 10th, 2021.
Okay. Question call?
Questions called?
Okay. All in favor, please raise your hand. All those against? 9-0.
Your Worship, the City of Charlottetown Records Retention Disposal Schedule Bylaw, amending Bylaw 2020-RR-01A to amend the City of Charlottetown Records Retention and Disposal Schedule Bylaw to replace the multi-page records retention schedule due to the documented errors and omissions in the original schedule outlined in the records retention regulations of PEI. Moved by Councillor Yankoff, second by Deputy Mayor Cody. Be it resolved that the City of Charlottetown Records Retention and Disposal Schedule bylaw be read a second time, that the said bylaw be now approved and adopted, Your Worship.
Shall it carry? 9-0.
Your Worship, the City of Charlottetown Remuneration Bylaw, amending Bylaw 2020-RMN-01A to to amend the City of Charlottetown remuneration bylaw to include the option of a tax-free saving account under the benefits in 7th section in Schedule A. Moved by Councillor Yankoff, second by Deputy Mayor Cody. Therefore be resolved that the City of Charlottetown remuneration bylaw be read a second time and that the said bylaw be now approved and adopted. Your worship.
Shall it pass?
Pass.
Your worship, and
Yes.
just a point of clarification in the human resources update. It said here that the committee last met on April the 6th, but we met on May the 4th.
We'll fix that into the record.
It says here Tuesday, May 4th.
Yeah, 2 sets of minutes.
Oh, geez, I'm as bad as myself.
No, you're not.
No, you're not bad.
No. It's been a long night.
My apologies.
Poor Michael.
I'm getting lonely over here anyway.
Poor
I love it.
Poor Michael. Oh, no, wait, did you? Heard? That's a good phone.
Anything else? Motion to adjourn.
There.
All those in favor? You're out there, Councilor Ron?
Good go.
You got his water bottles and everything.